Hi everyone. Welcome to Acadesia. Acadesia is a Singapore-based impact-driven edtech startup that empowers the largest online community of education institutions and educators in Asia to upskill and reskill themselves to improve the learning outcomes for their 21st century learners. On acadesia.com, educators can access 4 specific services. First, Collab Ed, a social networking service that empowers education institutions to build their international network from all over Asia, and where individual educators can join a wide range of communities of teaching ad learning practice and engage in peer-to-peer learning. Second, Skill Ed, a professional development service that empowers educators to upskill and reskill themselves by accessing more than 1,000 hours of professional development content, all with formal CPD accreditations. In addition to this, academic managers from education institutions can track, measure, and improve the efficacy of all professional development that their faculty access on the platform, thus leading to better learning outcomes for their students. Third, Design Ed, the easiest course builder on the planet. In 5 simple steps, this service empowers educators to build fun, engaging, and quality content for their learners. Furthermore, third-party tools like Canva, Google, etc. are fully integrated right into Design Ed. Fourth, Certify Ed, a digital credentialing service that empowers education institutions to design, award, and track fully verifiable and tamper-proof digital micro-credentials and certificates on the blockchain. Join the largest community of educators in Asia who are already using the platform and sign up for your free lifetime membership at www.acadesia.com today.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Acadesia Technology Tuesdays. I'm Roy Platon, co-founder and chief community officer. And we here at Acadesia are an impact-driven edtech business, and we are here to empower educators everywhere. So as with our usual events every week, today we're having Technology Tuesdays where we introduce interesting new tools and technologies to our educator community. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today so that we can actually see how we can apply these tools and if they can further help help us enhance and improve our pedagogy and how we deliver our lessons, maybe make things easier for us as well. So very glad to have all of you again for a regular Technology Tuesday today. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple of shout outs. Here we have friends from all our social media channels and everyone else in the audience. Thank you so much for joining. We have some friends from Bali, of course, Indonesia. Hi, Desi. Hi, everybody. We also have some friends from Aklan State University in Calibo in the Philippines. Hello. We have even a friend from Da Nang, Vietnam. Oh, that's interesting. Hello. Welcome and joining us. And we have some friends also from Perth, Western Australia. We have some friends from the Philippines all over. Thank you so much again, Tacloban City, Marikina City. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. It is great to have a wide audience today. So very interestingly, on Technology Tuesday today, we'll be talking about, in particular, how to apply and use technology for understanding systems and feedback loops. Okay, so it's important that there are systems and feedback loops like this, and probably we can talk about why that's important and how we can probably use technology or techniques to make sure that these feedback loops are in place. So before I call in our speaker, I'll just like to invite for some opening remarks our special friend and always part of the community to join us here on stage to give some thoughts on why is it important to have these systems and feedback loops in your education practice? So I'd like to call on, he's a very experienced educator from the Philippines, more than 20 years of experience. He's been a senior high school principal and has many leadership roles in various education settings. A great facilitator. I'd like to call onto the stage Jake Aragon. Jake, welcome back.
Hi, Roy. Good evening to you and to all the teachers, educators, education professionals from all over the world joining us for Tech Tuesday.
Great. Yeah. So, Jake, could you give us a little bit of commentary on our topic for today? Because it says, we're trying to understand what we mean when we say uh, systems and feedback loops. In particular, today we'll be using Coggle and Loopy, and will be demonstrated by our speaker today. But why is it important to have these kinds of probably mapping tools or system loops when we're doing learning experiences for our learners?
Yeah, absolutely, Roy. Teachers are all generally aligned on the purpose of feedback, basically because we
Mm.
want our students to grow and learn. And so we,
Mm.
as educators, always ask ourselves, what action based on the feedback we provide in class or in the learning experiences will actually result in growth. At the end of the day, we
Mm.
want that magic to happen. We want the transformation to happen, Roy. After
Mm.
a teacher gives that feedback or that input, after a project is presented or after a submission is made, and you see the student taking that step towards improving his or her work or submitting another output of higher quality because the teacher made that effort or initiative to give that feedback. I remember
Mm.
when I was teaching myself before, and how I had to give feedback or comments to as many as 50 research outputs in a semester, Roy, or more
Mm.
product proposals in a PBL context. Many times I felt that it was just overwhelming, and physically
Mm.
and even psychologically impossible to do it. And how much qualitative feedback I was actually giving to students. So I guess especially for teachers who are used to handling so many students in a class in a certain
Mm.
semester, that's always a question. That's always a challenge or an issue that they struggle with. So tonight we're very fortunate to see how a more systematic, a more recursive approach to providing feedback using some tech tools are actually implemented in a school setting. Practices surrounding feedback are widely varied and extremes are pretty common. So we want to be able to
Mm.
give tips and concrete strategies on how this can really be accurately, properly, and well done in a school setting.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Jake. Yeah, I can just imagine, right? Obviously, if we teachers or educators had all the time in the world, we could really focus and
Right.
hone in and provide, effective feedback for our learners so that they can improve better. But obviously, there's not enough time sometimes. There are too many students. The class sizes vary. So maybe we can learn some tips tonight from our speaker so that we can actually are able to give better feedback.
Right. And with
Um,
the tech available, Roy, that can help
yes.
teachers will definitely learn a lot and be able to immediately implement these techniques in the
Yeah.
classroom.
All right. Thanks a lot for those initial comments, Jake. I'll call you back later for the Q&A. So
Sure.
I'll
See you
see you
later,
in
Roy.
a little bit. All right. Thanks, Jake. So yeah, interestingly also in this context in particular, because this month is actually about sustainability and green education, and with us, of course, we have our partner institution, the Green School Bali, in based in Indonesia. The context of our feedback loops today, interesting enough, will be connected to the environment and climate, and of course, our guest will demonstrate, how he uses his tools for his own lessons and feedback, and yet these feedback mechanisms can be used in different subject matter areas. So I'd like to introduce our speaker. He's been working in progressive education environments since 2006, always seeking out strategies to create more relevant and authentic experiences for learners of all ages. He used to help out at a particular learning center in Vancouver, but then he recently joined Green School Bali to build out their project based learning approach for middle and high school. Um, After 8 years in what he calls the Bamboo Cathedral, where he adventured with his family in Budapest, he had started Real School Budapest at the time, a learning community focused PBL and cultivating sustainable mindsets. He then worked with Green School to develop the Green Educators Network, online community of educators around the world seeking to incorporate wall-less or no walls learning everywhere. He's also the co-founder of Nuanu Education, who are developing a model for lifelong learning is embedded in a state-of-art sustainable city. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Green Educators lead course designer and developer from the Green School Bali, Indonesia, Mr. Noan Faru. Noan, hello. Welcome.
Hey, how are you doing? Nice to hear that intro, Roy.
Yeah, it's a little lengthy, but you gave me such a long piece of text, so I felt obligated to just mention everything. It's all right. We've had no one before on the program, so thank you very much again for joining us. I also noticed that your background's very interesting over there. You're over there at Bali. How's the weather? I heard it's been raining a lot.
Oh yeah, we've had pretty consistent rain every day a little bit, but makes everything that verdant green, which we love.
Fantastic. Okay, so Noah, today's topic, what can you share with us regarding understanding feedback loops and systems for creating such feedback mechanisms? And
Mhm.
just briefly, in your experience, how did you use tools, in and out of the classroom or even online to help create these feedback loops?
Yeah, so the everything really around us is a system, and to start to unpack that, we can use a something called systems thinking, and that is
Hmm.
understanding how those connections are made between different objects or different pieces within a really complex and often amazing mechanism. And for me, as a environmental science educator and somebody who really focuses on regenerative or sustainable practices, it becomes critical to recognize uh, everything as part of a bigger whole and how it
Hmm.
interacts with it. So when it comes to things like feedback, we really have to recognize that when something is influenced, it will create an impact on other objects in that system. Uh,
Hmm.
and really, there's two kind of feedback. Another word that we often hear feedback in is when somebody's got the microphone too close to the speaker, and it just makes
Yes.
that screech. So that kind of feedback is positive feedback, even though it's not positive for the ears. So you can also use the word reinforcing feedback for that. And then
Hmm.
the other type is suppressing, where whatever that influence is calms, and that's a negative feedback loop. And most
Hmm.
systems work with those, and it's kind of tricky for some kids, not just kids, but people to understand. Uh, and so we're always looking for tools that can help us describe and share the beauty of the complex world around us, both in real time with kids and as part of projects that they undertake.
Yeah, absolutely right. So even the way we kind of ask for or deliver feedback, it also will depend on the types of learners that we're dealing with, right? Because maybe there's particular feedback that is effective for younger learners. So maybe over there at Green School Bali, you have a lot of younger learners, but depending on, let's say, for our other members in the audience who are with bigger schools with older kids or maybe senior high and tertiary and up, the feedback mechanisms will be also different, and the kinds of feedback you can give, you can ask for more complex reactions or more complex outputs and analysis, whereas with younger kids need to kind of calibrate it accordingly, right? um,
Yeah.
so
So just
what
on that,
yeah, okay.
so feedback as a is part of education, giving them
Hmm.
feedback directly. However, it is a term that describes something that exists everywhere. And so the
Hmm.
tools I'm going to show is how to help learners unpack that type of feedback, the feedback of natural systems and the feedback that systems give each other. It's part of systems thinking as known by Donella Meadows.
Interesting. Fantastic. Okay, so can't wait to jump right into that. So if you have any questions for Noan and I guess the other speakers who are with us today, there's a Mentimeter link being flashed on the screen. You can post your questions there. Towards the end of the session, we'll probably spend around the next 40 minutes or so discussing, and we'll have a portion for Q&A. And then for all of you who would like to earn your certificate for this particular webinar, there's an accompanying course along with this that is available on acadesia.com. I'll show you how you can get on the course later, and I'll make a few announcements, including those for our teachers and friends in the Philippines who are who would like to get their CPD points. I'll show you how to do that towards the end of the session. All right, Noan, I give you the floor, and we'll come back together at Q&A. All right, take it away.
Awesome. So today I'm going to focus on two tools that I think are just incredible. One of them is made by an individual and is part of a big toolbox called Explorable Explanations, and we'll send you a link for that. But the tool in consideration here is something called Loopy, and it is Loopy. So I'll get started with that and just share very simply how it's made and how we can use it. Now, let's see here, just gonna do the whole window. Great, so you start with a blank canvas, and so this is a beautiful space to start exploring with students the idea of feedback in nature and how systems might work. So I'll give you an example here. You just draw on the board, and let's say this is something we are all searching for, happiness. And we have a certain amount of happiness. And then we can ask our class, okay, well, what makes you happy? Some of them might say, oh, you know what, holidays make you happy, so we'll put in holidays there. Another says, oh, I like money, money makes me happy. I would argue with that one, but for the sake of this, we'll take all the answers there and put them up there. Now, here's different elements in a system. We can color them just to add a little bit of dynamism to the whole thing. Let's make holidays green. That just feels right. Great. But these don't just exist on their own. How do they influence one another? And now, very simply, you can draw arrows. So I would argue that holidays make you happy. And it's a reinforcing loop, which means that as you go on holiday, you feel happier. You could probably argue that money does the same thing. So more money makes you happy. Now, not all pieces are reinforcing. There's also suppressing feedback. Holidays may make you lose more money. So we can draw another link there. And rather than have it go positive, we'll change it to a negative link. Now, this to me is where it gets really exciting. With this type of diagram, you've created something nice for the kids to see, but you can then suddenly say, okay, well, what happens if I go on holiday? And bing, all of a sudden you can see the, oh, there it goes. It gave us, let's try that again. So if I hit holiday, you'll see some positive feedback going into happiness. And you also see it turn negative because your money decreases. And then suddenly, okay, well, my happiness is the same, but my money is disappearing. I'm going to try that again. Wait a minute. Now I have no more money. And so you can see based on the inside how that works. And we've done lots of holidays. Our happiness stayed the same, and we're out of money. Not a great combo. But the fun thing about this is you can actually model really complex systems with such a tool. So I'm going to show you one that I pulled together. And this one's looking at a topic that I believe every kid should be learning about right now, about energy. And I thought I would make one that reflected how different policies influence these systems. So you can see here we've got green policies. Maybe this is better to say green energy policies that will influence the number of solar panels and wind farms. And then you can see those will need more grid storage, which requires more batteries and can affect the lithium reserves. And so this is part of a system. And you can draw it out just like I did with the last one. on a board using your laptop for a class to see. And the amazing thing is you can then say, okay, well, let's give this a shot. What happens if we introduce more green policies? And this is actually a circular system, so it will reinforce itself more and more. So here I go. I'm going to add a few more green policies. And as you can see, it starts to create a whole bunch of magic as it's going along. And you can see the wind and solar starts growing. The fossil fuels have decreased. Our lithium reserves disappeared, meaning, we're out of an essential element there. And what's happening to that carbon dioxide? It's kind of on a crazy flux because of this feedback loop there. We say, okay, what happens if we do the same with fossil fuel subsidies? Will it cause any difference? So let's add some fossil fuel subsidies in. And slowly you can see not as much need for batteries, but suddenly we have no more solar and wind farms because fossil fuels have taken over and our carbon dioxide levels are off the chart. So this tool here is a beautiful one for giving people a chance to explore complex systems.
Noah, can I chime in a little bit? So this is really interesting. So maybe we can go back to your screen. This tool that you shared with us is Loopy, right? And with your Loopy tool, you're able to, it almost to me, like it's my first time looking at this tool. It looks like a flow chart or a mind mapping tool. And what you've demonstrated now is depending on the concept, and you can have kind of a flow or relationships happening in between the different elements in the system. And depending on how you've built the flow and whether it's increasing or decreasing, it actually either adds more to that other element or decreases from the other element. So what how do you find this useful in when you're teaching green education, as you were showing in your if you don't mind, if we could go back to that screen so we can see the
Sure thing.
The actual diagram about the energy flow, because a lot of things were happening there. It's like you can help us, I guess, walk us through, how you kind of use the tool to kind of illustrate, and maybe you can also share with everyone in the audience, how do you kind of introduce this to your class as you're showing them this kind of tool to do their feedback system?
For sure. So let's simplify it. I'm going to use my eraser and get rid of some of these pieces here, and we'll keep it really, really simple, just so that people can get an idea of the loop.
I hope you can get this back. Are you able to like undo and just have all the elements back, or it's gone forever?
So that's actually a great point. You can save files on your computer and reload them as points right away. So it's no problem doing that.
Great.
And you can even check, there's a whole community showing a series of examples. That's a great place to start actually with kids if they want to explore this, because it is something kids are very capable of building as well. So
yeah,
I would start and put this up on a projector and ask kids, okay, well, we know that with the use of fossil fuels here, we are creating more and more carbon dioxide in the air. So I'm just going to put a circle here, and I'm going to call this circle renewable energy. Okay. And I'm going to make it green because it just doesn't feel right any other way. So,
I mean, yes.
Yes. So, hypothetically, if we are making electricity using fossil fuels, then we don't need green energy. But if we were to replace fossil fuel energy with green energy, what would happen if we built more solar panels? What do you think would happen to our dependence on fossil fuels? Would it go up or down?
Hey, I'll pretend to be your student. I'll say down.
Yes. All right, cool. So then I draw this and I say, no, more means less. So more renewable energy means less fossil fuels. And actually, this loop has to go both ways. So I draw another one and say, well, if that's true, in this case, more fossil fuels probably means less renewable energy. All right, so I've added these two, and I'm just going to hit play on this and say, okay, what happens if I increase the renewable energy? And now you can see the carbon dioxide starts to drop bit by bit, and the renewable energy increases because now we're sending it into a positive feedback loop. And so that would be a great starting place for kids to start understanding this relationship. And then you go, okay, well, what else comes out of renewable energy? Well, maybe we need to store that energy on a grid, or maybe we need to mine more metals for the solar panels and whatnot. And so you can start building a complete system using this tool, and then make it actually interactive, which I think is incredible. And the fact that you can do it fairly easily is also nice.
Right. So when you first introduce this to your students, you kind of demonstrate the tools in Loopy. You show them some examples, and then you can do it, let's say, presentation style. They give you feedback, and you add elements to the diagram. But you can also, I guess, embed this in your online class or any other learning management system or tool, or and they can actually make their own Loopies themselves, right? Their own diagrams.
Yeah, it's really quite easy. You can save the links so that you can then come back to it, embed it in the website. Again, this is a very simple tool that was made by, I believe, one person, Nikki Case. But in terms of what it demonstrates, it's powerful. And the students, as they start playing, they really like it. There's here in the examples, some that right away kids can connect with, like depression and anxiety as an example. And you can see this is also a system. So you can talk about something like, hey, how does doing things make you feel? And as you do that, it shows that it keeps your depression low. It makes you start feeling better. And it's just a great example of how that system reinforces that and allows people to explore kind of complex ideas in real time.
Right. And I guess when you're doing, discussing, certain topics, maybe not necessarily always the environment or green education, I guess even in some other subject matter areas that require this kind of conceptual spatial thinking, they can visualize it using this tool. And then you can see the loops, you can see how the systems are connected or the elements are connected, and, how one part of the, system adds or subtracts from the other part and vice versa.
That's exactly right. And really fun. Now, as you mentioned, it's something nice to start by demoing, presenting it on a board. If students have access to laptops, then it's really straightforward for them to go onto a browser and start building their own. And I'm always surprised at what students build when it comes to this. They end up creating some really beautiful interactive diagrams and are able to present it.
That's really cool. Yeah. So I guess that's a tip for our audience today. If you want to try some new tools, there's one of them, Loopy, in terms of doing feedback loops. There's some questions here. Rachel's asking, where can you access Loopy? Do they just Google it and you'll get the site that has the Loopy website?
Yeah, I believe Loopy, and we can provide the link somehow, can't we?
Yes, we can probably add that to the course. We'll be accompanying that. You send that over, and we'll include those links to the tools in the course afterwards. All right, Noan. What else do you have in store for us today?
Yeah. So the one thing that Loopy doesn't allow for as beautifully as I like is brainstorming as a collaborative act. And so the second tool that I wanted to present you with is something called Coggle. And Coggle is very much a mind mapping tool.
All right.
So I'll share my screen again, and then I can go straight to this one here. So Coggle does have like a premium type service, but it also allows you to create unlimited ones publicly and invite people to it. So I'll show you really simply how it works, and then I'll go into some of the details of how we've used it for a number of subjects, including, like you can see here, a bit of marine biology. We did a project on the built environment. We talked about what e-portfolios are, and we did a design challenge using it. So I'm just going to start with this one. Generally, you put your topic in the center, and then you have these nodes on every angle. Because it's interactive, it's always nice right up top. You can invite people to join. So I would encourage students right upon building these, add all their friends' email, and then they can work on it together. And watching that happen in real time is just amazing. So once they've done that, I thought food production on campus would be a great topic to cover. And so I'm going to use a model called the compass model here. And so the north on the compass stands for nature. And so I've got my guy here. And as you can see, nature, just going to slide it over and make it green because nature, again, is green. Now, Coggle's really easy. Each time you see a plus, it will add a branch. And so when I think about food production on campus, I can ask a question: what is going to be the impact of growing food on campus on nature? And I could say, more habitat for bugs, which is, in my mind, a great thing. You could say, less pesticide use, because nobody wants to use pesticides in the school campus. And then maybe one more about nature is lots of pollinators in the garden. So I've got a few different ideas here. What I love about Coggle is you can just move these pieces around really nicely. Going to do the same for economy, which is another part of the compass. And you can just see it's hitting the plus button, adding some details. So what's good about food production on campus? Maybe saves money on fresh produce. And so if I was doing this with a class, I would give them all a Coggle board that they could work on collaboratively. Generally, you don't want 20 people on one board, but in groups of 4 to 6, it's great. And the south on the compass is about society. What does food production on campus mean for our school culture? I would say respect for farmers. When you start growing your own food, you learn a deep respect for farmers because you recognize the toil that goes into it. And then just to complete the compass, we've got well-being on this side. How does food production help well-being? You could talk about the garden as a mindful experience. I know mindfulness is something a lot of schools are interested in. And now I've started to create a mind map that helps me build out as far as I want on this. I could add hundreds, probably even thousands of different points on here. If I'd like, I could add hyperlinks if I was doing research. And it's a great way to kind of store and classify information. So at that point, I figured I'd show you some that are designed by students. This one was designed by grade 6s, and we started to talk about life in the ocean And right away, it's like, okay, well, life is animals, plants. But then we thought, okay, there's a lot of animal life. So let's start breaking it up into things like invertebrates here. And so we have all the invertebrates, the sharks and rays, and started dividing all of these pieces. The students in this class were really like, there's also things related to life in the ocean that aren't about just qualifying the plants and animals, but the problems that people make is also part of life in the ocean. And so we added this, talked about those, as well as the chemicals, because it influences life in the ocean. And this helps them get a broad understanding of how everything's connected. So for those of you who are in your biology classes, what a wonderful tool. I'll show you this one too, because this one's more about the systems, and it was really fun to make. We were exploring urbanization and talking about the influences of urbanization. We thought, well, what makes an urban environment? And so this was all generated by the students. They said this: people, economy, different zones in a city. And then as we started going through this, we started saying, well, let's add more detail. And you can see here, we started to discuss the different types of transportation and talk about their positive and negative factors. And this helped us really brainstorm all the different parts in a city. And as you can see, it started to get kind of complex, but also allowed kids to always see the interconnections between them. And then we've finally used it as a portfolio development tool. And here we kind of use it as a different structure of a comment board. So you can see the students here talking about their overarching themes. You can see the different names of the students here. This was actually done with tertiary students in university. And so here we were giving feedback on one another's portfolios in all these different ways. And this turned into a really valuable tool to understand how all of us can create meaningful portfolios. So that is Coggle, the second tool that I wanted to share today.
That was really cool. That's the first time I've seen that, Noan. Maybe we can share that a bit on the screen now while we talk about it, because my initial reaction is just appreciate the tool. Is it's, again, very simple to use. It's not too complex. Just a little bit of playing with the items, then you can understand how they work. So again, if you were to introduce this to your class, whether it's younger learners, middle school, or older, it's something, as long as you have kind of the environment for it, they can use it. The other thing I liked about it was you can visualize the discussion, right? Because a lot of the times the traditional feedback mechanism is, if we were, let's say, in a face-to-face class or even a virtual class, let's say you have your students in the same video call or what have you. Only those who are, let's say, chatting and typing in the chat then you read the chat thread as it goes up, or those who are raising their hand and speaking, those are the only ones that are really kind of sharing their feedback, and you're getting interaction from them, which as teachers, that's the kind of engagement we want. But using these two tools, they can visualize together, and you can see the discussion, how it branches out, in a mind map format, rather than just a top-down thread with thread discussions, which is fine. I mean, we're kind of used to that when we use social media, but this gives a more visual approach to the feedback, and that's kind of what I liked about it.
Yeah, and I actually have found that with this, it allows you to, unlike a thread where you kind of generally go through sequence and filter top to bottom, in this you start finding people looking more for the clusters of information that they're interested in, and recognizing, like the title of our talk, recognizing the underlying system that supports this. So you start to see the interconnectedness of many different things as you're going along with this, which I think is a really beautiful thing for students to understand.
Yeah, and I think it's really powerful, especially the one your life in the ocean, topic, because then you can see not only the living things there. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
just try to put that on the screen.
Yeah.
Not only do you see, the animals, but you also see the effects of humans on the ocean, and even the chemicals and systems. And by visualizing the discussion this way, I think there's greater retention that is achieved with the learner, because they can see, oh, I these things are really connected. Every time I use a plastic bottle and I throw it on the beach, it can connect to, all sorts of living things and systems, and yeah, living food. Yeah, it's not like a food chain, but it's a life chain, right? It kind of connects
Yeah.
and affects each other, and that adds more consciousness to how we're interconnected in the system. And they can also apply this to multiple subject matters. Let's say if the typical, either intimidating subjects like math, or the traditionally, they think it's an easy subject, it's English or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or science. But if they visualize it this way, then I think it can become a lot more interesting. um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring in Jake now, because time is flying by really fast. We only have like about 15, 20 minutes left. And there are a couple of questions here in the chat as well. So um, I'd like probably to call in Jake to join us on the session. Before I ask some Q&A, I want to get some comments.
Okay.
Hi, Jake.
Hi, Roy. Hi, Noan. Fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for sharing us those tools.
Yeah, Jake, before maybe we get into the Q&A, I'll give you first dibs. If is there anything you'd like to ask no one, or any kind of comments you have from the presentation and the demo?
Oh yeah. Actually, if I'd be given a few seconds, Roy, I made a loopy myself. If I can share my screen.
Oh yeah?
Just
Oh
show that,
yeah?
just so that I can
Okay.
share with you and our viewers
That's
tonight what I've learned
that's
from your
cool.
presentation. Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, I
I'm
guess you
excited
just
to see.
yeah, I want to see this too. Go ahead. Yeah, while you're doing that, maybe no one we can go through a couple of questions here from the chat.
Mm-hmm.
One question is, can Loopy generate a graph simulation between multiple nodes of how they change with respect to each other? For example, in an energy example, a graph between lithium sources and solar panels. I think that's a
That
pretty straightforward answer, or
no is the answer. So Loopy
no? Okay.
is a simple tool. It doesn't
Mm,
involve any numbers. Now, it is a great starting point for how would you do that on a spreadsheet? Or, yeah, let's talk about that data. What are the relationships and where could we go with that? So
mm.
it's a nice place to start off, and it's great for younger people for that reason. They don't get bogged down with having to know quantities and stuff. It's more just a visual
Visual.
support.
Understood. Okay, let's look at Jake's Loopy. I want to see it. Here
All
we
right.
go. Look at that. Wow. That's
Sorry.
pretty quick, Jake. Can you walk us through
Nice.
your Loopy, please? This
Yeah,
is cool.
sure, Roy. Absolutely. Of
Yeah.
course, through Acadesia, we have our weekly events for teachers, and for today we have Tech Tuesday, right?
This is so
Roy and
cool.
Noan.
Okay.
And of course, through Tech Tuesday, we get to invite brilliant and very generous speakers like no one here, who gives tips and strategies for teachers. And of course, as no one was talking about his experiences and strategies on how to use Loopy and Cogly for mind mapping or for mapping out systems. In our context, of course, what we see here are opportunities to empower teachers to learn new
Mm.
techniques and strategies. But
Mm.
at the same time, as teachers use these, of course, they'll be using and applying these strategies for their students the same way no one does. And that informs both students and no one, and of course, us in Acadesia as to how we would, move forward with new insights, with new techniques, with how we would want to be able to apply all these new insights and learning. So if we play, We see the
Absolutely.
inputs here. And then
More
as
of
we
me!
Oh,
go
that's
on, we
that's
see how
that's cool.
it reaches students and teachers, and how it just spreads exponentially to all who benefit from the sharing of insights and strategies here. And we see the whole loop. We see the whole system working right there, and it's just awesome how such a tool, very intuitive, very simple to use, can have so many applications on many different subjects, whether it's economics, it's science, it's math, history, social sciences, political science, right? No, there are just so many ways
Got it.
to use it. And just with what we're having now, this is exactly how Loopy is demonstrating the experience of learning, of knowledge sharing that we're having at this moment. There you
This
go.
is
And it's fun.
excellent, Jake. I have to give you a hand because this is really cool. And what I liked about this is, often like, as teachers, let's say even if we're face to face or we're having a conference like a video call like this with our learners, it's usually just a lot of talking, and it's hard to visualize the discussion. This is something, dear teachers, you can add to your repertoire, right? You can add to your arsenal of tools that just help the students really put a picture to what you're talking about. And Jake has really done it fantastically here. A couple of other questions we have. No one is one question is Coggle, can it synchronize with some LMS like Google Classroom or other LMS, or how do you kind of use Coggle?
Yeah. I think I just share a public link, and then any student can pop in if they have a Google account. It's synced with the G Plus stuff. If they don't
Okay.
use Google, they can use their email and register. It isn't a deep sync other than the single sign-on. So
Right.
yeah,
And
that's about
even
it.
if you don't have a Google account, you can use it independently, right? So if you're using another
100%.
LMS, if you're using the
Yeah.
Acadesia Design Ed
Yeah.
system, so I imagine both Coggle and Loopy, they have embed links, so you can embed them in your presentation of your lessons. So
Yes, you can.
typically, same way as you can share and embed links for these tools, you can do that with any other system.
Hmm.
Another question is, I saw Coggle allows for multiple starting points, which would be great to connect multiple systems to each other. Do you have an example in which multiple starting points were used and how they were connected?
This is something that frustrates me about Coggle, is they do
Okay.
not allow you to do more complex loops and interactions and connect the dotted lines without going up to the Beyond free account. And
Oh, so you have
I
to
shake my
upgrade
hand a
your
little bit.
subscription. You have to upgrade to a paid subscription to get more tools, basically, right? From the free, you have
Yeah,
to go.
you can
Yeah.
add multiple starting points, but things like feedback loops on Coggle, not the animated ones, but just even drawing a loop around to itself or combining branches, I think that requires you to have a Beyond free account, which is a bit of a
Understood.
bummer. Change that,
Okay. So,
Coggle.
of course, but I guess they have to kind of sustain their business somehow, right? But so
Mhm.
if it's not too expensive and it's reasonable, and if the user finds it super relevant to their practice, then why not? In the meantime, no one, I guess you're using combinations of tools so that you can present your idea anyway. So that's another way to approach. um, some other questions we have here. I'm curious if you've ever discovered branches in Coggle Loopy that replicate natural features visually. For example, drainage basin or
Oh yeah,
leaves.
that's so Coggle it does a beautiful job. Again, one feature is you can have wider, thinner branches, and so things like a drainage basin are great to represent in Coggle if you pay. So
So you have to upgrade as well.
yeah,
Okay.
Loopy, on the other
Another.
hand, though,
Okay,
does
go ahead.
have the ability. Yeah, I mean, a watershed or the water cycle would be a beautiful one to put into Loopy. I'm sure people have already
Yes.
done it, but that's a great challenge for your kids. And the water cycle is something so many schools cover. So there you go.
Yeah, so if you had a water cycle class, you could use the tool, have the learners try their own version of it for starters, so that they can exercise their creative muscles, and then you show them this is probably another way to present
Yeah,
it, right? So that's
exactly.
an interesting.
See,
That's already one class, guys. A freebie for everyone there. That's one session already with your students. Another question here. You demonstrated how Coggle and Loopy can be used for in lesson presentation and collaborative learning, but how can teachers use these tools in feedbacking or giving feedback?
yeah, I guess they're more visual tools to understand concepts than fully go into direct feedback to students.
Mm,
You could use them for feedback in terms of you could have people create a mind map in Coggle and then
mm,
have them invite you to it, and you add feedback to their mind map, and
yes.
that's one way that could be really effective because they've already done the organization and you can share it there. Uh, Coggle has a nice feature where you can actually comment, you can message inside the tool. So it allows
Mm,
you to discuss that. Uh, and then when it comes to Loopy, I did draw one where you could show the relevance of teacher feedback using Loopy by having that as an item, and then talking about how does that impact
ah,
quality of the material, how does it impact student effort. It's more visual to say this is why we do feedback rather than actively feeding back.
right. Jake, you want to share something?
Yeah, or maybe if you want students to make self-assessments or reflections, they may
Mm,
also use either Loopy or Coggle to have a visual representation of their own progress or of their understanding of the content or the stages
mm,
of let's say development of a project if they're working on one, if that would be the case. So that's a way to
yeah.
assess student learning as well and provide
Yeah,
feedback.
I can imagine, right? Instead of the student submitting a written paper with paragraphs and outlines and what have you, then you can try a mind map feedback, right? So from the lesson, this is how I connected this idea for this lesson, and then they can explain it in class. You can share that with the other learners in the group. They can then create their own branches and comment on those. So you can have one of your exercises. During your sessions to just look at this, and they can see, oh, so that's what he thought about my feedback, that's what she thought about what I said. So I think that's an interesting way to use it as an actual feedback mechanism. All right, fantastic. That was excellent. We're almost out of time. I just want to give you both, let's say, your final thoughts on our Tech Tuesday demo today. Very interesting about systems and feedback loops. And then after that, I'll give my housekeeping reminders for the course today. So, your final thoughts. Maybe we can start with Jake first, and then we can end with Noan before I go into the housekeeping.
Yeah,
Final
absolutely.
thoughts.
Yeah, I'll just echo what no one said. It's always important to unpack the feedback. I think that's
Uh,
one of the key takeaways that we should all learn from tonight. And in the context of a thinking systems environment, dear teachers, what we want to be able to help our students develop is that mindset, that paradigm of systems thinking or feedback loop system that will really open their minds to possibilities and to give them the opportunity to have that big picture thinking, whatever it is that they're studying or learning about. That's it, right?
Thanks, Jake. Looking at the connectedness and bigger picture. Absolutely. Noan, your final thoughts.
Just that systems thinking as a tool to me is, if anything, could be considered a silver bullet for sustainability and regenerative action. It would be this to me. When I speak to students who go deep, they are applying systems thinking, and they pick up something like their cell phone and ask questions about it and start to see the connections so deeply. So employ systems thinking and encourage it, get it so that it's part of the student's life, not just as an academic subject, but something that they're regularly doing on everything around them in their environment. And then we'll be looking at that thriving and abundant future that we're all working towards.
Yeah, it's that sense of, being part of a bigger whole, right? It's
Yeah.
not just about me and, what I use or what I want, but it actually affects everything and everyone, everything around me. Yeah, absolutely, Noah. Thanks so much for your final thoughts, gentlemen. Uh, I'll just wrap this up with the session with our dear audience. So if you'd like to stay behind a little bit, no problem. If you have to go, no problem. Thank you, Noah, and thank you, Jake.
Makasih banyak. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Okay, all right. So for our reminders now for our audience, we'll just wrap up with some housekeeping. Let me just share my screen this time. Okay, let me just make sure that I share the window because the last time I was not able to share it. Okay, there, I think it's correct. So there is an accompanying course that comes along with our live webinar today. You can rewatch a recording of this webinar on acadesia.com. So, and then complete the assessments and then submit on time so that you can get your certificates and CPD points. So create an account, sign in, or if you have not created an account yet, make sure to create a teacher account. Do not create a student or partner account. Just keep it a teacher so that you have access to all the relevant tools for our session today. Once you create your teacher account, I'll come here. Make sure that you complete your profile so that you can access all the system tools here. We have several tools here. You'll have access to those once you complete your profile here. So in the profile page, put your picture, username, first name, last name, identity proof. You can upload any picture of your staff ID or teacher's license or any government ID. And then make sure that you also select the correct school you belong to. We have a record of all the schools as much as we can. So please just add your school name here. Once you complete your profile, you will have access to all the features available to free accounts. Primarily, that's Colab Ed. And here in Colab Ed, that's basically our social network. So you're able to chat, create networks and groups. We demonstrated at the video earlier. So here we're reminding everyone of Technology Tuesday and Green Education with Green School Bali for systems thinking and feedback loops. So make sure to join the communities here. You also have different communities that you can join this way, public and private communities. You can also look for other fellow teachers in the network here. So aside from that, you also have SkillEd, and this is where you can access the course itself. Okay, so go to SkillEd. There are many courses here available from the past couple of months as well as our current month, which is about green education and environment. And here, using Coggle and Loopy to understand feedback systems and feedback loops. Click on it so you can see the course homepage, what's the course all about, how many hours, what's going to take. You can even do a course discussion. Would be nice to insert Loopy here, but we'll do that next time. So then you have this, and then you have your course. So make sure you're able to enroll, okay? And then you can rewatch the session. There'll be some reflections, video reflections required. And then, of course, towards the end of the lesson, there's some surveys. And then here, we have our CPD attendance form for our teachers in the Philippines who need CPD points. Make sure that you complete this portion by February 13 and submit all the requirements. The first 5,000 completers will get CPD points in the Philippines for this, okay? But for those who are not from the Philippines, perfectly fine. You can still finish this and move on to just go topic complete at the end, and you can move on to the next. And you will get your own blockchain certificate sent to your email via Acadesia Singapore. Okay, so you'll get that upon completing your course. Also, in addition here, we also have our contest. So make sure that you're able to share the certificate that you actually earned from this course from February 1 to 28. We will have this contest ongoing. Winners will be posted on March 5. All the mechanics are here. And for that, following the mechanics, share your certificate on your social medias. Please tag us as noted here, and we'll give you a green water bottle from Green School Bali sent to wherever you are in the world. Okay, so even if you're living in Antarctica or Siberia, we'll find a way to get that bottle to you. Okay, so make sure that you complete the course. Um, sorry. All right. Make sure to follow the instructions here to join the promo until end of the month, and then you can get your free prize. Okay, so in addition to this, I just want to highlight over here that if you notice, one more reminder is we'd like to share with our audience that moving forward, we'll be offering more paid content from our partners. So notice from a couple of months ago, our partner Orange Slates is now having some courses that you could obtain for a small value. And you can use these assessment tools more. So just add them to your cart if you like to avail so that you can actually take these courses. Very interesting, very specific premium courses for intermediate level users. You can check out, let's say, how to engage your classroom with Padlet. That's one of the technology tools. So we have the complete lesson here. By making this purchase, you can add this to your cart. Additionally, also, if you notice, for the past about like 6 months, we've been sharing a lot of CPD content to our friends and partners here. So a lot of the times, all these courses are free, right? And we've been working very hard to continue to offer these all to free for you. But we're also thrilled to announce that we're having a major upgrade to our membership plans and program very soon. So starting March 1st, we'll be offering paid memberships with exclusive benefits that are designed to enhance your experience and help you get even more value from the platform. Okay, so we'll be moving on to paid. Um, Previously, if you were a free member, then you already experienced the quality of the sessions that we have, the accompanying courses with CPD points. With a paid membership, you will then have more access to more advanced features. So you can see here Design Ed for building courses and other features that will be coming forward as well on a paid plan. And with this, you'll also be given priority support, your CPD certifications will be included, and much more. We believe that on these paid plans, and I can show them here, for now, we'll be upgrading this very soon. But if you go to the membership page, so these are samples of our paid plans. We'll be revising this shortly, but for now, these are most of the features and these are our pricing. On these paid plans, we understand that maybe for many of you, this might be something new, okay? However, we're very confident that once you experience, now that you've experienced how we're able to provide quality courses to you and quality CPD sessions, you'll never look back when you get a paid membership. And our goal here at Acadesia is to provide the best possible experience for our users. And part of this is we also need your support so that we can continue to achieve this goal. If you would like to learn more about this, and if you would like to also learn about our support and loyalty programs on our platform, you can email us at support@acadesia.com. I'll ask our team to show that on the screen right now. And we're here to help you every step of the way. So that means up to the end of February, we've committed to all the CPD point sessions, especially in the Philippines, are free. But starting March 1st, we are going to start moving towards these premium plans because we also want to provide you with the best opportunities and the best content available. So again, we thank you for being part of our community. We're committed to giving you the best possible experience, such as we've had here with Green School Bali, No One, and the Coggle and Loopy system. And I think, are your kids over there, No One? I can hear
Oh, yeah,
them.
they've just come home.
Okay, so welcome home, guys. So thanks so much for that. So we appreciate your support. I hope you also value the trainings and CPD points that Acadesia provides. Please support us as we move on, and we'll offer more features along with your paid plans. So on behalf of Noan and Jake and the Acadesia family, next week, don't forget, we'll be having our sessions. If you've signed up, you should be able to see our session next week, which is Acadesia Technology Tuesdays, Acadesia Teacher Spaces Thursdays. So that's going to happen next week. Don't forget to register for those events. And for that topic, Feb 16, taking nature into your classroom. Okay, so can't wait to have you all there for ATS Thursdays, Acadesia Teacher Spaces Thursdays on Feb 16. All right. With that, on behalf of the family here at Acadesia, thank you so much, everybody. Join us next week. And till then, complete your certs, okay? Finish your courses so that you can get your certs. And please support Acadesia moving forward on March 1st. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Acadesia. Acadesia is a Singapore-based impact-driven edtech startup that empowers the largest online community of education institutions and educators in Asia to upskill and reskill themselves to improve the learning outcomes for their 21st century learners. On acadesia.com, educators can access 4 specific services. First, Collab Ed, a social networking service that empowers education institutions to build their international network from all over Asia, and where individual educators can join a wide range of communities of teaching ad learning practice and engage in peer-to-peer learning. Second, Skill Ed, a professional development service that empowers educators to upskill and reskill themselves by accessing more than 1,000 hours of professional development content, all with formal CPD accreditations. In addition to this, academic managers from education institutions can track, measure, and improve the efficacy of all professional development that their faculty access on the platform, thus leading to better learning outcomes for their students. Third, Design Ed, the easiest course builder on the planet. In 5 simple steps, this service empowers educators to build fun, engaging, and quality content for their learners. Furthermore, third-party tools like Canva, Google, etc. are fully integrated right into Design Ed. Fourth, Certify Ed, a digital credentialing service that empowers education institutions to design, award, and track fully verifiable and tamper-proof digital micro-credentials and certificates on the blockchain. Join the largest community of educators in Asia who are already using the platform and sign up for your free lifetime membership at www.acadesia.com today.